It's the girl Varcy. Welcome to In the Shack, where we talk about all things Junkanoo.
And I'm Michael Pateman, and we are here in the Swingers Shack. And this is the week after Junkanoo. So we have to say the new champions, unofficial results, but I think they'll be confirmed. But the new champions from the 25 Pineyard Rush. So congratulations to the Swingers, and thank you for letting us record this episode in your shack.
Alrighty, let's get started. So this episode is just me and Pateman, and we are going to be talking about what we saw.
And a bottle of Maravilla rum.
Yes, we're going to be talking about what we saw on the parade route, the changes that they made to Junkanoo, things like that. So what did you think about this parade? The Pineyard Rush.
So before we get started, remember to like this video, subscribe to this channel, send us a comment, a message, especially if you want to be on In the Shack. And just remember, this podcast is sponsored by Walker's Key Maravilla Rum. If you'd like to buy a bottle, you can buy it here at the Bahamas Maritime Museum. Well, not here at the Bahamas Maritime Museum, but if you're in Freeport, at the Bahamas Maritime Museum, or from John Watlin's in Nassau. So what did I think of this parade? This parade was good. It was cold.
It was good.
It was cold, but it was good. So we had 5 A groups here in Grand Bahama and a 6 exhibition group that's hoping to be an A group,
right.
But 5 A groups. And shout out to all 5 of them, the Platinum Knights, the Swingers, the Rockers, New Generation, and Classic Dancers. They all made the road. That's accomplishment number 1. Especially, I have to say, with New Gen and the Classic Dancers, they had challenges. I mean, no sponsors, and they made the road, which is very, very difficult to do. So what I'm going to say next is not an insult to them, but just a credit to the other 3 groups. You guys were ready for Bay.
Right.
I mean, just...
I mean, I think it's all about growth and development, and I think other groups, and especially the younger Junkanoos, have to understand that when a lot of the groups started, they started with very little. They started with no support, no sponsors. And so it's important to still be able to uplift them, even though you might be in a different group that's doing, that's well off. You still have to be mindful of the fact that Junkanoo is a work in progress, and all of us are actively working together for the Junkanoo community in Freeport and at large. So what I want to talk about is the new route.
that route was long.
I felt like it was good.
It was good, but it was long.
I felt like it was cold, but I think the group struggled to get adjusted to the route. And you could always tell when they try to bend, because it would be a gap, a huge gap. And I saw it with at least 3 groups where they tried to bend, and you would have the banner and most of the group already off the road. But then you would have the choreographed dancers and everybody else still on the road.
But, I mean, you had the turn last year, but I think part of it was a longer route. Right. So I focused on, in the Unmasking documentary, shameless plug again, my goal of recording was to try and get from the fanfare to at least some of Showtime. So that means I started with the groups from the start, and then I followed them into Showtime, and then I would have to go back to record the next group. So I didn't see the part you're talking about. But in a few instances, you could see that people got tired by the time they made it to Showtime, because there are more judging zones here in Freeport now, too. I think there's at least 3 judging zones.
Yeah. I thought it was 3. Wasn't it 3 before? Because you got out the gate, Showtime, and then...
So I think there may have been 4 then, but it seems like the groups were performing a lot longer than they were used to.
I think it's a marshalling problem, and I think based on a new route, maybe it should have been more of a study, because the groups were, like I said, I mentioned before, I noticed at least 3 groups that couldn't figure out that turn, even though we did have a turn in the previous route. I don't know what the confusion. I mean, I think we always have that problem finishing as groups. We always have the problem to finish. What do I say? I think...
But turning with a big costume's not easy.
It's not.
And you do it once a year.
It's not. I think what happens is the marshals are trying to get the group off the road and the timing, but the other group, I mean the back part of the group is still back performing. So I guess the most performative part of the group is back, and then I guess everybody else is already off the road. Yeah, so let's get into the groups now. We talked about the route. Let's try to give it a little easy push. We talked about the route. Let's talk about the groups.
All right, let's talk about groups. Let's start
Let's
off.
talk about the
We'll do
groups.
them in order of appearance on the parade route. So I'm going to start with the Platinum Knights.
Okay.
It's no secret. I have a lot of friends in the Platinum Knights. When I
Right.
started doing this stuff in Junkanoo and Grand Bahama, I started with the Platinum Knights. So
Yeah.
there's always been this illusion that I'm a Platinum Knight. I'm a Junkanoo. So that's why, and it took me a while to get the trust of the other groups, I think, because of my start with Platinum Knights.
Right.
But I said this leading up to the parade. If the Platinum Knights had finished, because they had some struggles this year, not as much sponsorship, lost some stuff, they were going to be tough to beat. And boy,
Right.
did they look good. Their
Yeah.
costuming was top notch,
Right.
but they fell down on things you're used to them, music.
Yeah. I think what happened with that is when you pick a theme like circus is an intricate theme. And so I know they had came out publicly and said that they struggle with sponsorship. And to get a theme like circus and kind of run out of funds in the middle of the year or whenever it happened is that's dangerous. I mean, that's dangerous and so I think maybe if they had chosen a more simplistic theme, that would have been a better strategy to finish well. You know, I think they might have started and try. I mean, because when you think about circus, you expect a big,
But you
big
expect
show.
a big production.
Right, a
which
big show.
They did bring the greatest show on earth to
right,
Grand Bahama, and they
Right.
looked, as I said again, they looked good. And I've said this publicly before, so it's no surprise to them that I'm saying this. They were flat.
right,
And I feel that this is how they practice all year round. Because I would talk to the leader and different leaders in the group, and I would say, your practice was not good. I didn't enjoy that.
it's complacency.
It might be, and I would say that to them. I would be like,
Right.
is it complacency? And they were like, no, we know how to turn it on. And I'm like, last year, not last year,
Why
'cause
did you turn it off?
every one of their practices, except for one or two for the parade for 2024, were good practices.
Yeah.
This year, maybe they only had one or two good practices.
Right.
And so they performed how they practiced.
And I think they set a standard for a practice being because this is how I would show up to the practice. If I was coming to watch the practice, I would come. I gotta get something to drink, get something to eat, crack a few jokes, and then I start to watch my surroundings in terms of okay, they set up the drums, I'm timing everything, and so I think this year, they might have had struggles with being more unified at practice. So I think it definitely might have given more challenges than we thought. But I think they did do a good job at setting a standard on the island, and that caused the other groups to kind of, pull up their bootstraps and fight for. Everybody's fighting for first place.
And everybody worked hard.
Yeah.
And I have to say this about Platinum Knights. They're angry. But they're
Yeah.
not angry because they feel like they were robbed. They're angry because they know they did not perform to their standards.
Right.
And I'm going to say this to the rest of the groups here in Grand Bahama. You better come for the next
Right,
parade
right.
because they are coming.
I mean,
I think they're going to show. We're going to see what the Platinum
Right.
Knights have made out. 6-time champs.
right.
Let's see.
I think the way it happened is now gonna create more of a standard with the tourism when it comes to Junkanoo. I think for far too long we've been disrespected in Freeport, and placed on the back burner simply because I guess we didn't have that antidote yet. And now that we are not just competitive, we are now looking at different flaws, looking at things. Everybody was bringing their A game this year with whatever they had.
Yeah, and I think probably for them the most disappointing part is their placement in music.
Right.
Because I think I was told that they've never lost music since they've been a group. I don't
I
know if
have
that's.
no idea.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not been in Grand Bahama that long, but if that's the case, to go from always winning music to either fourth or fifth in music, because I've seen both out there,
Right.
I'm sure that is a letdown for them.
All right. Let's go on to
The Superstar Rockers.
The Rockers.
The Rockers, in my opinion, looked really good. And I have to say this, I spent a lot of time in the Rockers shack this
Right.
year. I mean, the Rockers, usually PK was very welcoming. They were always welcoming. The Swingers welcomed me. But the Rockers, I mean, like really opened their shack to me this year. So I probably spent more time in the Rockers shack than anyone else's shack. And
I would say,
I saw the work they put in. And they looked so good, just from a costuming standpoint.
right.
And they probably used more crepe paper. Boom.
Oh, God.
We're in a shack. Things are being put up.
Listen,
But they used probably more crepe paper than any other group.
I would agree.
Their costumes were really well pasted, well designed. I have to say, really good job. And then also their choreographed group is so young.
Right, right.
And their brass is not as young as their choreographed group, but still their brass is young. If the Rockers can stay together and learn from their mistakes,
Right.
because it's hard for young people to lose.
Right, right.
And they have come now second, 6 years in a row.
right.
So I think the Rockers in the future can be a very, very dangerous group. They have a really good core, starting with their leader to section leaders, and then they're just these young people. And I saw in their shack more young people all year round than in any of the other shacks.
I think I was disappointed at the public for not showing up to the practices as much. I've been to a few of the practices, and I've stayed for the 2 laps. Very disappointed in the way that the Freeport Junkanoo community does not support other groups as much as they should. And so coming out and seeing them on the road, I think the group itself has dealt with a lot of losing members and things like that, maybe even sponsorships. And so to see them as a collective on the parade day, I mean, I ain't gonna lie, I gotta switch it. I get into my dialect now. When I saw them, being an all-around jungle person, when I saw them, I love the fact that they finished. They were complete. I think they focused a lot on costuming. I think what could have placed them in second was the illusion that they didn't have enough people. It didn't look like much people.
But I think that's just an illusion, though, and
It's an
we'll talk
illusion,
about
but
that when we talk about
Let's
the
talk
next
about
group.
the judging not understanding. It is an illusion. And being less of an A group does not make you incomplete. So I think because they seemed to have less people, they weren't, and once again, theme is, and to all the groups, if you pick a theme, right? And was that theme Winter Wonderland?
The theme was, yeah.
Okay, Winter Wonderland. It was a good theme, but I think once again the illusion that it was less. They weren't able to bring out a lot of more things that Winter Wonderland could offer, and so I think that was one of the things. Maybe they're being underestimated.
Yeah, I think the Rockers, and I think the Rockers in general are underestimated by the Junkanoo community. I mean, once again, 6 times now second place.
Yeah.
And all the time I hear Swingers PK, Swingers PK.
Right.
I mean, until this year.
That's a rivalry, though.
That is a rivalry.
That.
But still, until this year,
Yeah.
Swingers were 5 times
Right.
third place.
Right.
PK was 6 times first place. So the rivalry on the parade, I would say, really is Rockers and PK, because that first second is the
Right.
true rivalry. I mean, you
Yeah.
guys now came in and took the crown, and we can call you a 7-time champ since you left PK and went to Swingers. But I think the Rockers were underestimated. They did have some issues with attendance at their practices.
Right.
Hopefully this year, when they start up again, that improves, because they had some dancings that they tried. I didn't see it on the parade because it was more for showtime, and I left when that should have started.
Okay.
That I think if they had a crowd at their practices. They had a whole ring play thing that they did the
Yeah,
first couple
more support.
practices. Man, I was just like, oh, I can't wait to see this out there because they struggled with it at first. I was like, but if these young girls pull this off, you're going to see the crowd freak out for them.
Right.
So I missed that part. So I don't know if they did it or not because they pulled it for some of their practices because they wanted to work on it in private.
Right.
Or if they did it and the crowd reacted. I don't know. But the Rockers, I have to say, hats off to you. You guys looked, sounded good. And as I said earlier, you would have competed on Bay.
But let's talk about how there's a shift in the girls. Because now it seems as if your girls, win their section, it's almost like win one family, one girls. And then I wasn't looking at nothing else except the choreograph section. So I feel as if the group start to pay more attention to the girls section, I think that'll give it more of a boost because a lot of people do come out just to see the girls. It's changed over the years.
And I have to shout out to my mother who has passed away, but there's still a debate there on where this has started.
Big shout out.
I'm going to shout it out as that she brought back, because there's some arguments that say Maureen Duvalier started choreographed dancing. Some say it's free dancing.
Right.
Her herself in an interview before she passed, she said choreographed dancing. But I can tell you that choreographed dancing was gone from Junkanoo. And my mother brought it with Uriah McPhee and Junior Junkanoo.
Right.
And then Roots brought it back to the senior parade.
Right.
I think it was their first parade where they brought choreographed dance in and just blew everything away.
But you could see how time really changing because when Junkanoo started, women weren't allowed to do Junkanoo. And now it's like people already know, okay, when the girls come, I can't wait to see the routine. I want to see how they look.
I want to see their energy.
Right. And so it's a big competition between the girls now. And I guess going back to the point we were talking about with the Rockers, I saw that they had a lot of nice off the shoulders. And that's something.
They won the off the shoulder category.
Right. I saw that they had a lot more free dancers. They had a lot more off the shoulders. And so I think collectively the groups are getting to where they need to be in order for Freeport to demand the support now. I mean, even though we could have demanded the support, is now you can't deny that Freeport Junkanoo is elevating.
Yeah. And I have to just add and put a shout out there to the Walker's Key Maravilla rum because they did. They were a sponsor for the Rockers this year also. So not just this podcast, they were a sponsor for the Rockers. And I was quite happy to see that logo on the banner. Hopefully we can convince more groups now or more corporate of Grand Bahama and corporate Bahamas to help out and sponsor Junkanoo here.
Before we move on to the next group, I got to give a shout out to the back line. Because, I mean, if I ever go to a Rockers practice, it's going to be the back line that I'm very focused on. I feel like as throughout the years, even though they have changed a lot of members and things like that, or I wouldn't even say change a lot of members, a lot of people left, the back line has always been solid.
Yeah, and I'm going to shout out especially Stevie and Mikey. Those two, when I say Rockers embraced me in their shack this year, especially those two. They were, I won't even talk about some of the stuff we talked about, but they got me drinking gin again. And anyone who knows me as a drinker, I'm not a gin drinker.
All right, so let's move on to the next group.
And that's the Classic Dancers.
I haven't gotten a lot more time to really evaluate, but I've heard a lot of good things about it, and I've also known that backline. I've seen them in West End. The back line, first of all, the crank up. Let's just start on that. I know that the back line, and the girls, because even though I was anticipating them doing a practice, I haven't seen a practice from them.
They practice inside, their girls practice inside the shack.
Okay.
Because the night before, the night before Junkanoo, as part of the Unmasking documentary series, I was in everybody's shack. And their girls were there practicing their routine.
Wow.
And CJ, you did a really good job with your young ladies because once again, Rockers have a young choreographs. All the choreograph sections are young, but especially Rockers and classic dancers. CJ, you did an incredible job with those young ladies.
I saw them in West End. They were very lively. Very, very lively, very enthusiastic, and individually, not just as a girls group, which is what I like to see because a lot of it is synchronized. But I saw the different personalities and different, they have a time to free dance in between the routines. I saw all of it. But the back line,
Now, if you know me from Junkanoo and Nassau, you know I'm a Valley boy. And I have a bone to pick with the Valley boys because you can come together in Freeport with the classic dancers because you had some Valley boys from the world famous in the brass, and then you had some Way Forward members in the back line, and you guys performed together in Freeport, but you guys performed together in Nassau, but I won't go there. But so yes, there were some Valley Boys, and I heard some people on my YouTube page criticize them for the Valley Boys in there, and I'm like, you guys don't realize how many people from Freeport go to Nassau for Junkanoo.
right?
Like a lot of PK members rush with the Saxons.
Yeah, this big thing.
But see, the Nassau fans don't realize this. A lot of
No, come on, man.
they don't. They think it's all Nassauvians.
It's not.
New Gen is Roots. I mean, obviously Roots
Just
is
big
bigger
thing.
than that, but a lot of New Gen rushes with Roots. Rockers, their whole brass basically went and rushed. Swingers, I know a lot of swingers went and rushed. So Nassauvians, get out of this thing that you guys are what's making Nassau Junkanoo.
More times than one, they bring people over to Nassau. But what you've seen in Freeport, you have some members that do reside in Nassau, but they pay their own way to come here. So I just want to clear that up. You know what I mean? Like this is Junkanoo tourism. That's what I got to call it. Junkanoo tourism.
But that's one of the reasons the parade date was changed. It was to allow for a greater movement of people who want to go back and
some
forth.
import and export, some exchange,
I mean, because your leader said it. He put out the clarion call to swingers,
Right.
those who've left Grand Bahama, and said, we need you for this parade. So can I call them Nassauvians who came and rushed? No, those were original swingers
But
who came home and rushed.
Let it be known that as Freeport Junkanooers, we could still hold our own without the import-export situation. You know what I mean? Like we have gained the right to be able to brag about the fact that we have been upholding Junkanoo in Freeport, Grand Bahama for X amount of years. You know what I mean? And I think the groups have to become more appreciative of their own members too. Don't make your members feel as if, okay, we ain't a finished product unless we bring that. It's a pleasure to have them. But all in all, Freeport Junkanoo is growing.
It
you know
is.
what I mean? Now,
What's the fourth group again? Oh yeah, the swingers.
I had fun.
You
I was
could
mellow.
see how much fun
Yeah.
your group had. So
Yeah.
as part of the documentary, I'm recording the groups. And originally I was going to rotate groups to do some in the first lap and some in the second lap. But I realized I was going to be really tired by the time the second lap came. So I said, let me try and get as much first lap as possible. So I didn't catch the start of your group. Right. I caught basically the start, but just I was walking through them and they were bouncing, they were chanting.
Right.
I was like, yeah, they're ready. I could just see you guys were ready. And from the performance I saw, you were ready the whole time. I mean, you guys had fun.
Yeah, because the theme was simple. And I think
But
that was
that's a difficult theme to pull off because
I don't think so.
I have been very critical of Junkanoo groups in the past when they pull off when they say a theme about Native Americans.
Right.
I don't want to say Indians because they call themselves Native Americans because they're a culture and a group and not a culture. I mean, multiple cultures, hundreds and thousands of different groups and cultures. And sometimes what I've seen in Junkanoo can be considered racist and an insult into those groups. Right. And so I talked to your leader a little bit about this at some point, and I am just so happy to say that there was a little bit of things as an anthropologist that made me cringe, what you guys did.
Oh, Lord.
But you showed true Native American culture from Canada, from the Arctic to South America.
Right, right.
And for the most part, you didn't play to the racial stereotypes.
Right.
Which I, as an anthropologist, I know people are like, what is he talking about? I was very happy to see.
Well, I think what they might have done differently was the synopsis. So shout out the synopsis team, because and from the banner to the lead, they did research on every single part, every costume, and I watched this happen. And the thing is, when they started getting into some of the research, I was like, what? I didn't even know, So I saw that certain things they incorporated in most of the costumes was well researched. But I think it was a pretty easy theme, because when you think about it, was the Great Reunion. So it was the powwow.
The Great Reunion. And more than just a theme, you did reunion. A lot of swingers who were no longer in Grand Bahama came for Junkanoo.
Right. The thing is, feathers. It was a feather theme. So even though you did have detailed costumes and things like that, I think the most important thing would have been the feathers. And I think because a lot of the free dancers and off the shoulders stick to the Indian theme, it was easy to pull off. And so this type of theme, I would say, wouldn't have been as much of a strain as the other groups, because the other groups would have had to been more intricate. This, to me, was kind of straightforward.
But I think, I'm going to disagree with you. I think, like, for example, your choreographed dancing, their costuming was very intricate, but also it was different. And I had somebody come to me and say, oh, this is and I'm using the term, an Indian. I was like, yes, it is. Well, see, we have and this is part of, I hate to say, the problem with the Bahamas. We may have a little bit of a narrow focus. So we may not know all of the Native American groups. And this is something Mike and I talked about. I can't remember if it was a documentary on his episode of the podcast, where he talked about last year with your Let's Go to Work theme. It seemed like the judging didn't understand some of your costuming, even though the costuming was good.
Right.
So that's something we also, Junkanoo groups, have to be careful of.
I think the costuming this year was way better than the Let's Go to Work.
Oh, yeah, way better.
And I think they pulled the theme together a lot better than last year. But let's get back to the girls. They actually did so much research that my research coincided with their research, because I heard one of the girls saying, oh, all of my bells are almost off of my shoes. And I was like, shoot, I got bells on my shoes. And that's because I had done so much research on a particular tribe. And I saw that when they go to the powwow, they actually wear these bells. Why they wear the bells? Didn't even get that far. But all I know was I just kept seeing the bells, and I saw certain things. I almost got powder and all, but I was like, you know what, back off. I don't know what it means, So there's a lot of things that I saw people actually went and did research and tried to replicate that, which is what Junkanoo was about.
And even the shoes they wore during the dance, and they wore sandals.
The sandals.
And because I looked out, and I'm an anthropologist. Native Americans is my specialty, especially Lucayan. So that theme I look at really closely and I understand. And I was just, when I looked down, when I heard the foot slap,
the claps.
I looked down. I was just like,
the claps and the
like,
bells.
Their feet are hurting afterwards, but I have to say, from front to back, from music to free dancers to actions to chants, everything worked with your theme. And this is going to be, even though you think it was an easy theme to pull off, it's going to be very hard for you guys to top this next year. And I know the swingers are back in the lab already, so I really look forward to seeing what you guys do next year.
I think everyone is getting back into the lab because they're starting to realize that to win, and I think one of the first people to do it was Platinum Knights. But I don't think it's just going back into the lab. I think it's being able to analyze a loss or win. Like I said before in other podcasts, you have to know why you won. And if you lost, you have to know why you lost. And you have to know why you placed, whatever you placed. And that's from the banner straight to the lead. If you don't know why you place what you place, or and you're not able to analyze it, it doesn't make sense to go back to the lab without doing your homework.
If your call is they robbed us, you're not gonna do better the next year.
But this what I really want to talk about. Were there penalty judges on this parade?
I'm shrugging because I don't know. Because that question has been asked to me, and I don't know. Um,
I hope because I've seen with at least 4 to 5 groups. Well, most of the groups I've seen some outrageous penalties,
all of the A
especially in the back line.
all of the A groups,
All of the A groups,
including the Swingers.
everybody.
I can point out penalties in every
Yes.
group, and I don't know if this was a penalty parade or not.
I have no idea, and I think it would be very dangerous if it was based off of these penalties, because you know a lot of times they actually went back and demanded that they change certain things. I don't know what they're gonna do because I mean I saw penalties everywhere,
Yeah, if penalties are applied, they should be applied fairly.
right, everywhere.
But,
But if they do that, it would be so much chaos because we wouldn't know who could be first, who could be second, who could be third. It was a lot of penalties.
PK might sneak into first place and be the 7th-time champ.
lot of penalties.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but I think that's something that needs to be cleaned up in general.
Right.
There's some materials, and there's some pace purists out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's some materials out there that I'm seeing creep into Junkanoo more and more, like this
Right.
tennis ball material.
Right.
If it was up to me, I would ban that. I cannot stand. I don't even think it looks good.
Man, you got some people who ain't had no kind of material, they just had the pants.
Well, yeah, that too.
No crepe paper on it, just pants. Just pants. And so I would like to say if we are going to continue to win these parades, then all of the groups have to be mindful of the penalties.
Yes, very
You know?
much so.
And then, like I say again, I don't know if they had penalty judges on the road. I don't know if they know what they was looking for because I saw some stuff in every group.
In every group, yeah.
In
I
every
did too.
group.
And you can go to my YouTube channel and you'll see it in
All
every group
right,
too.
then, but that's where we saw it.
Yep.
Most of it we saw it there, but I've literally stood on the side and was like, wow, dangerous. You know what I mean? And so I guess in the Freeport Junkanoo community, I want us to be mindful of the fact that even though we are elevating, and we could obviously see it visually, you know, we could see it. Let's get back to real Junkanoo. Let's.
Yeah. I mean, Junkanoo has to evolve, and it has
Yeah.
evolved. We've added in the feathers. We've added in some cloth.
Right.
Yes, evolution is good, but we have to, Junkanoo in general, this Nassau, Freeport, the other islands,
Right.
we have to decide what we want, and some material needs to be thrown out of Junkanoo,
Right.
in my opinion.
Let's get
But
to the,
before we move on to the next group, there's something I did want to say about the classic dancers. We talked about their music and how good their music was. And yes, it was a heavy influence of the Valley Boys, but I think they made a point. Their music section was small, the smallest out of the A groups.
Right.
And they tied for first.
and they was carrying on by.
And they were good. And I think a lot of times we think in order to have a good music section, we have to have a bunch of sousaphones, a bunch of drums, a
Right.
bunch of bells. And they
Right.
didn't have to. I think they only had, 2 sousaphones? Or
Right.
2 or 3. I mean, right there. But they tied for first
Right.
in music. So I want
was-
everybody to think about that.
I was kind of shocked that rockers didn't get, you know, to me, I felt like once again it was underestimated because the brass is so young. And I think because the brass is actually learning notes and maybe they're not playing by ear as much as the other groups. They're not as, I guess, they're not dancing as much. And so I think people feel like, you know, oh, they're doing what the other brasses be doing. I completely disagree. They might have more
They're
of
doing
a
some
style.
stuff better.
Yeah, they might have more of a style of a marching band. But I think over time, once they get comfortable with these songs and these notes and they're more fluent, I think, you know, I'm just pointing it out because I know the brass is so young, but I think they underestimate them way too much for my liking.
Yeah. All right. So we're moving on to the next group, the new generation, the new kids on the block.
Very disappointed in the way they treated new generation.
I am too. So for those who didn't watch the parade, there was a planned halftime show after all of the A groups went out. But unfortunately, the parade did start a little late. It was cold. And after the Swingers finished, a lot of people got up to leave, which new generation was next. You can't stop people. When they're ready to go, they're ready to go.
Right.
I mean, there was a lot of people out there with their families. So they were probably at the point where they're like, I need to get these kids home and in bed. So the decision was to start the concert just to hopefully entice people to come out, to stay out there. But New Generation had already started. Once a group starts, you cannot stop them.
Exactly.
And so you can hear the concert and you can hear New Generation at the same time. And that was distracting to their dancers because what are you going to dance to? Which music? And then also, I'm surprised that the music, although they didn't place well, their music sounded good. But I'm surprised they played as well as they did because that must have been so difficult to be hearing another beat while you're trying to play.
Right.
So shout out to New Generation for performing through that.
Right.
They had some issues.
Yeah.
The lack of sponsorship. It's a new group. This is their second year on the road. Last year was their exhibition year. This is their first year as an A group.
Right.
But they have a very, very young core also.
Right.
And I saw their leader also talked about how he felt because this is actually the second time this happened to them.
Oh, wow.
Because apparently this happened to them at West End also, where the music started when they were performing. They got a lot of encouragement from senior Junkanoo people throughout the Bahamas to tell them, keep up the fight. We support you. And then they got a endorsement, and I'll say it because it's public on Facebook, from the leader of Roots, who said that you guys have helped us out for the last couple of years. You stood behind us. Next parade, we are there with you.
Wow.
So it's going to be interesting. How much will Roots bring this year? Because it's next year to the parade. Because Roots, in my opinion, should have won the New Year's Day parade in Nassau. That's my opinion.
800 million.
And that's based on what I saw on TV.
Right.
I think, my opinion, Roots and Genesis should have been first and second.
They kill the themes dead short.
Yeah.
You know?
So Roots is not a slouch of a group.
Right.
If Roots comes heavy to Grand Bahama.
Roots is a loyal group.
And Roots is a loyal group.
Right.
They talked about how much New Generation. This is a young group, no sponsorship. Their leader, I think Nays is in his 20s. If he's
I'm not sure.
If he's in his 20s, he's not much older than 30-something.
Right.
Young group, young leaders. They talked about how much New Generation has helped Roots over the last couple of years. So it's going to be very interesting how much of Roots can come and help New Generation. Are they going to help them find sponsorship? Are they going to help them build? Or are they going to build stuff in Nassau and bring it? Who knows?
I think it's nasty to have that type of attitude towards a new group because, like I said before, all of the groups in Freeport, Grand Bahama had to start somewhere, and so to even allow something like that to happen, I'm not sure if they had a mix-up in schedule or something like that, or they tried to do.
I think they were just trying to keep people there.
Right.
I don't think it was malice.
Right.
But it did have. I was upset about it. The fans who were still out there. The fans who were out there, because I had a lot of people saying to me, "What's going on back there? Why won't they turn off their music? They're coming. I'm here for Junkanoo." So we have to remember, as Junkanoo organizers, the people are there for Junkanoo.
Right.
I like the ideas that they brought into Junkanoo to entertain the fans during the lulls, which we did not have in Freeport. Once again, Nassau learned from Freeport. The lulls were very minimum. That first group passed, you could look down the road and you could see that second group and they were coming.
Right.
So, but they had a DJ battle. They had the planned halftime concert because the next day at the results show, we had a Bahamian concert.
And I had enjoyed myself.
Unfortunately, I did not stay out because people were like, "Oh, well, you didn't rush." I was like, "Yeah, but remember, I was in your shocks with you the nights before, so I didn't sleep." I was out on the parade route from 6 a.m. taking videos and photos. I was out there from Platinum Nights arrived, setting up, till the last group left the road. I was tired.
Right.
And so, I did not have it in me to stay out for most. I saw the start and I left. Yeah. And I love Bahamian music, and two of my favorite were on the stage, D-Mac and KB. So it was very hard, but I was just like, I had to go home and sleep.
I had fun. For me, I just love the culture. But once again, I guess shout out to New Generation and hoping that they'll be able to sort out things next year.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to see what all the groups actually do next year.
Right.
This is now my third Junkanoo in Grand Bahama, fourth if I include the virtual parade, which wasn't really virtual because I don't think it ever got broadcast.
Right.
And I've seen the improvements every year. Last year, Platinum Nights cartoon theme, yes, cartoons have been done many, many times, but some of their costuming, especially their music costuming, I said this last year, and I still say this. What I saw from their music section in terms of costuming last year is some of the best costuming I think I've ever seen in Junkanoo for a music section.
And they have a good free dancer section too. I think they executed really well this year as well.
Yeah, I mean they execute costuming, but last year that music costuming, that Pink Panthers, how they looked from, oh man, that was genius and it looked great. I mean, don't get me wrong, you guys looked good. They looked, everybody looked good, but what they did that last,
it reminded me of Colors when Colors first came out and it was just one color. I can't remember if the color was white or pink, but it was just one color. And so they made a statement. And so I think now it's pronouncing how to actually win a parade. And they basically gave that away, showing us costume and uniformity, because that's 50%. And so now all the groups know, well, like we giving out the secret now. All the groups know 50% is costuming.
But I think it went down this year in Grand Bahama.
But backlines, for goodness sake, please.
Pace your pants.
Please be unified, even if you have different sections that have different colors. All of the groups were doing their own thing. You know what I mean? And the thing is, I was kind of disappointed because I know Platinum Nights set that standard of, I think it was after they had a penalty one year because they had the flaps on their pants or something like that. And then after that, they made sure they be doing this color. And that's what they did. But now to come on the parade and see all the groups doing whatever they want to do on the back line.
Yeah,
Not
but
the same.
now, when we're talking about the back line, once again, Rockers, man, their back line look good in there. Especially I saw like Stevie and all that, like they're the ones who were, because some of them weren't, but like they all looked the same with that wolf hat, and oh man, I don't even know how they performed.
I think it was
those.
a unified strategy.
Yeah,
you know, and I think the back lines have to become more together when it comes to strategy
and costuming.
Yeah, because we looking at you too. I don't want people to feel like because you in the back on the bass drum, I'm watching you. I see you. I'm enjoying the costume until I get to the bottom. And I kind of realize would you get tired or something? You know what I mean? Like, I get your pants out first. Please. But
I'll call you to pay some for it because I think you did a lot of pants this year.
Plug. But yeah, I think the groups did really well. Like I said, the choreographed girls, the free dancers, backlines, the step downs. Even though we had a lack of sponsorship in Freeport Grand Bahama this year, I think the groups did well on the step downs.
Oh yeah, step downs
is
man, the circus ones, the winter ones, the Native American ones. Even, I'm not saying this is an assault. I liked some of the concepts for the classic dances ones. Nays had some challenges getting his step downs on the road, so they weren't there. But I know what they were trying to do. Matt, I'm telling you, Junkanoo in Grand Bahama 2026 is going to be dangerous because we all know Platinum Nights, they're angry.
Yeah.
They are going to come out strong.
Well, they're saying it now.
Platinum Nights are going to come out strong. Platinum Nights is a planning group. I see you guys already thinking about next year. Rockers, I watched them last year. I think Rockers started first from what I saw out of all the groups. I think the Rockers started first. So I hope they take, because I'm sure they're disappointed.
Right.
6 second places in a row, it's really hard, and especially with a young group. So I'm going to encourage them together. Do what you did this year and take it up a little bit more.
And big shout out to the B groups. I don't think we mentioned them as yet before we go. I think it was Showtime.
Showtime is the main big B group because I know we classify Sting and Bushwhackers as B groups, but they're fun.
Shout out to them too.
They're fun groups. And the guys from Sting, I'm gonna clap my hands to you because at the results, when they were calling the results for the B groups, every time they started to say it, Sting would be like, and we're going to win this category. I'm like, you didn't have any choreographed dances. How are you going to win choreographed dances? But they actually did win banner. Oh man, this guy. I like to see fun like that. And then we had a new group this year, Bahamian Gladiators.
Yes,
and
yes.
I think they were trying to come out as an A group for next year. I don't know if they...
Oh, I thought they were going for B group.
No, I think they went for A.
Okay.
I haven't been able to interview any of them, so I'm not sure.
Oh, that's
but
Coldbrook.
they... Congratulations to them for making it a road, because it's difficult. And I hope that they are able to get the support to be out there for the next parade, because it's only good for Junkanoo.
Right. It's still big shout out to the Bushwhackers and Sting.
Oh, Bushwhackers and Sting always have fun.
You know, I've been in Harbor Boys, I've been in Top Performers, Crusaders, Platinum Nights, Swingers. I've never rushed with the Bushwhackers. I need me 10 Bud Light. Okay? 10 Bud Light. Some crackers. Ready for road. One of these years, I gotta rush with them.
Well, also, we just mentioned the B groups. We didn't even mention, we had one individual out there, actually a dad.
Oh, man.
He brought out a tribute to the fallen leaders in Grand Bahama. And I think that was good, because these guys are the base. You have Huck, Bob Davis, Mikey Wright, and Motorboat.
Never to be forgotten.
And what they did to keep Junkanoo alive in Grand Bahama should not be forgotten. So I have to give your dad some shout out for that one, because I know it was hard for him, because boy, I used to have those bad knees. I'm in the gym working those up, and I'm working that off now. So I saw him limping, but he had his he had his stand.
One year if Junkanoo just pissed me off to that point, I would do it.
I'm actually thinking about doing it next year, where I bring out an individual costume and take what he did to another level. Because
10 Bud Light.
People don't realize I got my start in Junkanoo young. I used to build and paste.
Right.
I would like to try. I mean, it's been a while, but you know what? Now that I'm done filming the documentary, I may think about doing an individual costume, not for a group, but just as a tribute.
Yeah.
So, we have our tradition. And I think since we don't have a guest, and I think with our first podcast, you did the toast. So I think
you do it this time.
I'm going to do it this time.
Okay.
Oh, table's far.
All right.
Once again, I want to shout out our sponsor, Walker-Ski Maravilla Rum. And so actually all of our fans who watch the podcast, it started off slow, but I get a lot of people here in Grand Bahama. When's the next podcast? When's the next episode? Oh, Nassau too. So we are going to continue. Junkanoo season's over, but we're going to keep going. And my toast, it's more of a thank you than a toast. And I said this on my Facebook page, I want to thank all the groups here in Grand Bahama for letting me and us, because for the In the Shack, but also for the Unmasking documentary. I would not be able to do the Unmasking. And actually, Varcy is my partner on that. So we would not be able to do that if you guys didn't give us access. So thank you. We look forward to 2025, 26.
Cheers.
Cheers. She struggles with it, but I love it.
Until next time.
Have a wonderful day. And remember, like this video, subscribe to this channel, and send us a message if you want to be on.